Hey, welcome back to Ways of Change. If you're new here, my name is Vanessa, and I've been on this overseas job hunt for a while now. And somewhere around month 4, I realized something. Job hunting at 59 isn't about resumes and interviews. It's about standing in the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming, and not knowing how wide that gap actually is. It's about waking up in the middle of the night with your heart racing. It's about dreams that won't let you sleep. And it's about people who love you, genuinely love you, telling you to settle down when every fiber of your being is screaming, "I'm not done yet." So let's take a few minutes to examine it. Here's where things actually stand. And no, I'm not in Mauritius yet. That's the long game. But I'm also not sitting still waiting for someday. So stick around and allow me to tell you what that looks like. All right, let me give you the real numbers, because y'all know I don't do vague. I've submitted somewhere around 37 applications since I've started this hunt. I stopped counting around 30 because I realized counting every single one was making me crazy. Out of those, maybe 8 responses, 4 interviews, 3 rejections, and a couple I'm still waiting to hear back from. Now here's what nobody tells you about job hunting at this age. The silence is louder than the no. When you get a rejection, at least you know. You can close that door and move on. But the silence, the applications that just disappear into the void, that's where the doubt creeps in. Think about it. You spend hours telling a resume. You write the cover letter, you research the organization, you pray over it, and then nothing. Maybe an automatic re-received your applications, and that's a big maybe. That's the part that tests your faith. That's the part that makes you wonder if you heard God right. So let me tell you about last week. Last week I had a promising interview for a position in Landstuhl, Germany. Yeah, when I hung up that call, I sat there for a minute and just breathed. Not because it was a done deal. It's not. I don't know yet. But because for the first time in this hunt, I could see it. The other side. What it might actually feel like when the yes finally comes. Now here's the part of the story that some of you may already know, but Germany isn't random for me. This isn't throwing a dart at a map and saying, "That looks nice." I was stationed in Germany when I was in the Air Force years ago. Different season of life, different version of me. But I know those streets. I know that rhythm. I know what it feels like to build a life on the other side of the ocean. And here's the thing that makes this more than just a job hunt. My daughter lives in Germany right now with my son-in-law and my 2 grandsons. Y'all, I'm a grandma, and my grandkids are on the other side of the Atlantic. So when I'm applying for positions in Germany, and that's where all my active applications are right now, I'm not just chasing a career move. I'm chasing dinner tables and bedtime stories and the sound of little feet in the hallway. That Landstuhl interview, it felt different, aligned, like maybe, just maybe, this is one of the doors God's been preparing. Not just a job, a reunion. And if it's not the Landstuhl position, there are others. I've got applications working their way through the system at a couple other locations in Germany. Different cities, different roles, same direction. Because at this point, the direction doesn't matter more than the specific door. I know where I'm headed. I just don't know which key God is going to put in my hand. That's a different kind of faith, y'all. It's one thing to say, I'm trusting God for a job. It's another thing to say, I'm trusting God for a specific job at a specific country where my family is waiting, and I have no idea how He's going to do it, but I believe He will. That's where I live now, in the gap between the application and the offer letter, between the interview and the answer, between the dream and the reality. Speaking of dreams, let me tell you about one I had recently. A few weeks ago, I had a dream, an actual dream that I remembered when I woke up. And y'all, I don't normally put a lot of stock in dreams, but this one stayed with me. In the dream, I was trying to walk, just walk, and I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. They were heavy, like someone had filled them with concrete. I was straining, pushing, trying with everything I had to take a step forward, and nothing. I was immobile. Now, if you've ever had a dream where you can't move, you know the panic. Your brain is screaming, go, and your body is just, no. I woke up with my heart pounding, sat straight up in bed, and immediately jumped up and walked around the room to make sure my legs worked. And the feeling didn't leave for hours. So I did what you do when something unsettles you. I mentioned it to my family. I told them about the dream, the immobility, the heaviness, the panic. And y'all, their interpretation was very clear, very loving, very wrong. They said the dream meant my subconscious was trying to tell me something. That maybe the reason I couldn't move forward in the dream was because deep down, I wasn't supposed to. That maybe the lesson was to settle, to stay, to stop chasing something across the ocean when I have a good job and a good life right here. Settle where you are, Vanessa. That's what the dream is telling you. That's what they said. Now I love my family. They love me. And I understand why they said what they said. When someone you love is about to move across the world, of course you want them to stay. Of course you look for signs that maybe they're supposed to stay. But here's what I know that they don't. I don't buy it for 1 minute. Not for 1 second. Because here's what I think that dream was really about. It wasn't my subconscious telling me to stop. It was my fear showing me what it looks like being stuck, being immobile, being in the same place year after year, not because I chose it, but because I was too afraid to move. The dream wasn't a warning, it was a mirror. It showed me exactly what settling looks like. And I recognized it because I've lived it before. The waiting room I talked about in my last series, that wasn't just a metaphor. That was years of my life, standing still, waiting for permission, waiting for the right time, waiting for the fear to go away. And in that dream, when I couldn't move my legs, that's what waiting feels like. Paralyzed, heavy, stuck. So no, I don't buy the dream was telling me to settle. I think the dream was asking me a question. What are you more afraid of, moving or never moving again? And that answer, y'all, I'm more afraid of never moving again. But here's what I haven't told you yet. Well, I haven't said on camera, and I just recently said out loud. There was a day about 3 months ago into this hunt, I think it was a Wednesday, where I almost quit. Not the hunt, everything, the channel, the dream, the whole vision. I'd just gotten a rejection from a role I really wanted, a role I'd convinced myself I was meant for. And I sat on the edge of my bed and I thought, what am I doing? I'm 58, soon to be 59 in November. I've got a good federal job. I could coast my way into retirement. Why am I chasing something across an ocean when I could just stay? And that voice got louder. Y'all know the voice I'm talking about. You're too late. You should have done this at 40. Who's going to hire a woman your age when they could hire someone younger, someone cheaper? And after that dream, after my family told me to settle, that voice had backup. Now it wasn't just a voice in my head. It was the people I love. It was logic. It was common sense. See, Vanessa? Even your dreams are telling you to stay put. But y'all know what? I let those words sit in my spirit for about 2 hours, and then I remembered something. Fear doesn't leave. It just evolves. The fear I had at 30 was different from the fear I had at 40. And the fear I have at 59, it's smarter, more sophisticated. It doesn't just say you can't. It dresses up in logic. It sounds like wisdom. It borrows the voices of people you love and makes their concerns sound like the truth. But it's still fear. Growth isn't becoming fearless. I wish it was. Growth is becoming recoverable faster. I used to think courage looks like confidence, like certainty, like fearlessness. Then life taught me something. The bravest decisions I've ever made were made while I was terrified. When I was in the Air Force station in Germany years ago, I was scared then too. Different scared, young scared, but I went anyway. And that season of my life shaped everything that came after. Now here I am, decades later, trying to get back. Not back to the Air Force. God knows that season has passed. But back to the feeling of being stretched. Back to the version of myself who wasn't afraid to go where the opportunity was. What if courage isn't about removing the fear? What if courage is about deciding to apply anyway? So I got back up. I opened the laptop. I found another job posting in Germany. And I applied. Not because I felt ready, because I decided ready is a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. And let me tell you something about dreams and family and the people who tell you to settle. They love you, they do, but they're not living your life. They're not going to be the ones who wake up at 70 and wonder what would have happened if they had just taken the leap. I am. So I'm taking the leap when I can. Now, you know I can't do this without bringing it back to the Word. That's just who I am. There's a verse that's been sitting heavy on me throughout this whole process. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Now here's what I've learned about that verse. We love to quote it at graduations. We put it on coffee mugs and wall art. But when you're actually living in the gap, when you don't know where the job is coming from, when you're 59 and starting over, that verse hits different. Because here's what it doesn't say. It doesn't say you'll understand the plan. It doesn't say the timeline will make sense. It doesn't say the waiting won't hurt. It doesn't say your family will support every step. It doesn't say your dreams won't scare you. It says God knows the plan, not you, God. And I think that's the lesson this whole overseas job hunt is trying to teach me. I don't get to know the whole blueprint. I get to trust the architect. Because here's what's interesting about Jeremiah 29. The verse we love, verse 11, was written to people in exile. People who had been taken from their homes. People who were living in a foreign land, waiting, wondering if God had forgotten them. And God's message to them wasn't, I'm going to rescue you tomorrow. It was build houses, plant gardens, get married, have children. Seek the peace of the city where I've sent you. In other words, I know you want to leave, but while you're here, live. That's where I am. In my exile season, I'm in the gap between the applications and the offer letter. And God is telling me, not, I'm going to give you the job tomorrow, but trust me. Build anyway. Plant anyway. Keep moving anyway. The dream where I couldn't move my legs, that's not God telling me to settle. That's God showing me what happens when I stop trusting. When I let fear and logic and other people's opinions become my compass instead of His voice. So when Landstuhl looks promising but nothing's confirmed yet, I trust. When the rejection emails come, I trust. When my family tells me the dreams means I should settle, I trust anyway. Not because it's easy, because I've lived long enough to know that God's track record is better than my understanding. He's got me to Germany once before when I was a young airman who didn't know anything about anything. And if He did it then, He could do it now. Every big shift begins as a quiet decision. And this decision to keep applying, keep believing, keep moving toward Germany and eventually Mauritius, it didn't come after everything was perfect. It came while things still felt a little bit messy. So I'm going to keep applying, keep interviewing, keep trusting, and keep bringing y'all along for the ride. So here's what's next. I'm waiting to hear back from Landstuhl. I've got other applications in progress, all in Germany, and I'm still actively searching, still actively praying, still actively believing. And this is the first video in a new series I'm calling Starting Over at 59. Because, y'all, the waiting room series was about what waiting costs you. This series is about what happens when you stop waiting, when you're actively pursuing the next chapter, applications and all, even when the dream scares you and the people you love don't quite understand. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to take you through the career pivot at this age, the emotional side of starting over, the logistics of moving abroad after 50, and how faith holds it all together when nothing makes sense. If that sounds like something you need, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Share this video with someone who's standing in their own gap between who they've been and who they're becoming. Like this video if it spoke to you. And before you go, leave a comment below and tell me what's one thing you're still applying for. Even though the people around you are telling you to settle. Is it a job, a relationship, a version of yourself, something you know you're supposed to pursue, no matter what the dream interpreters say? Let me know, because I want to read your comments. And write the word SPARK in the comments section, and I'll get you the link to my discounted Peace Before the Pivot Toolkit. For the length of the series, I've discounted the toolkit at 50%, and it might be exactly what you need in your own waiting room. Hey y'all, I'm Vanessa, and this is Waves of Change. Thank you for riding this wave with me. As always, you're never too late, and your peace is never too far. Bye.